And this session is co-hosted by our partners. Partners are Climate Kick and Growth Africa. And I'd like them to introduce this session actually first properly, starting with Karim. So Karim, Climate Kick, very welcome on stage. And
thank you a lot. Thank you. Hello, welcome everybody. Karibu, welcome to our session. I'm Karim Abousenna from Climate Kick. It's sorry, I'm from Climate Kick. It's the leading European innovation organization working in climate for more than 15 years. Working in Europe and also on so many places in our globe on climate action. We jump into complexity. We try to navigate these complexities and support ecosystems. And we've been engaged in Nairobi through our program of creating circular economy in Nairobi and in Bangalore. So basically we're building the climate innovation clusters in both ecosystems, and we would be happy to have you here in this session. We're welcoming you because we're here today as the circularity actually is not only recycling, and it's not only about materials. It's about creating value and opportunity and creating social impact from and for the communities. So the session is a space for us to share stories, to learn from each other, and imagine a future basically where circularity empowers everyone, empowers us, from informal workers and community groups to innovators and policymakers. But why does this matter for us engaging with this topic basically is because the choices that we make in designing any circular system does not just shape how resources are flowing, but it's also how people are thriving. Inclusion for us is not just a principle, it's the engine that drives resilient, regenerative systems. We believe that when grassroots organizations and their practices meet entrepreneurial innovation and supportive policy, we can actually unlock solutions that work for both people and the planet. So as we begin, I really invite you in this interactive session going ahead that you should bring your experiences, you should bring your ideas, you should bring your hopes as well for the future to this circle. And let's listen deeply to our speakers, to our colleagues from the different organizations, connect across these perspectives, and basically try to create pathways that make circularity a force for equity and transformation. So we will hear today from our story, from this program running in Nairobi, and also in some learnings from Bengaluru in India. And this will be taken by my colleague Linda from Growth Africa, our collaborator and partner here in Nairobi. We'll hear from research and gain some insights from the research sphere through ACRC. We'll hear from our speakers. We have around 6 speakers today about their inspiring stories concerning this topic. And we will have a lot of space for us to basically reflect together on these stories, what we got as new insights, what stories do we have in our work and discuss then the future steps. What practical steps can we do to that? So I invite you to bring all of this, bring this mindset, and I introduce my colleague Linda from Growth Africa. She will share with us the story of the climate.
Hi everyone. Linda, just 1 second. Ladies and gentlemen, before Linda addresses us, can we please move to the seat in front of you so that we have an easy flow of the conversation? Remember, this is a breakout session, so we do not want to have people meet in plenary. That would be, I know. If you can, yeah. So just in front, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for your cooperation.
Thank you very much. All right, I know this is the thing about being in the front seat. You can't disappear when you're in the middle of a session. But we're going to try to make it as interactive as possible and make sure that we get the most out of this session. And like Karim said, my name is Linda Madenge. I am from Growth Africa. I work at Growth Africa. I am a growth catalyst. What does that mean? It simply means that if you're an entrepreneur, you can walk up to me and ask me for linkages to investment, for linkages to mentors, to sages, because what we do at Growth Africa as lists is to project manage entrepreneurial programs that we run. So I don't know how many people here know Growth Africa. Anybody knows Growth Africa? I can see some people there. Yay. We even have some of our entrepreneurs here with us, and I would encourage you to please walk around to the booths and find out what it is they are doing as part of innovators in the circularity system. Okay, so if we can start this session with the slides, we can move on to the next slide. Okay, so this is basically what the agenda is. We'll start with our story. We'll start with setting the scene. We shall hear some research things about waste management from Africa Cities Research Consortium. Then we'll do something called a story circle. And that's why we're saying it's going to be interactive. One of the things that I haven't heard today is nobody has talked about who collects the waste. We've talked about regulation. We have talked about innovation. We have talked about, but who are the people who actually bring this waste so that it can be reused, repurposed, recycled, whatever, right? And this is what we're calling the social inclusion. And so with Climate Kick and Growth Africa, we have been running for the past 3 years something called the Circular Economy Innovation Clusters. We created a cluster in Nairobi, and those from the ecosystem who have been engaging with us will know about this. So the delivery partners was obviously the two of us. This is something that was funded by IKEA Foundation. It was in 2 cities, one in Kenya, in Nairobi, and Bangalore in India. And of course, the shared ambition was to empower entrepreneurs so that we can create a community. And I am certain that by the end of the 3 years, we have created a community, not only of entrepreneurs, but of stakeholders, everybody that is involved within the circularity system within Nairobi. Okay, next. So what have we managed to do? We've managed to do ecosystem visits. We've had a trainer of trainers sessions with ESOs, but also with the county government. I don't know how many county government people are here. Any county government people? Yeah, and we have also run an accelerator program for growth stage entrepreneurs. We have also run a hackathon for idea stage entrepreneurs. We have incubated those that run through the hackathon. And finally, this is where we are. We've also had stakeholder forums, which means that we have put together stakeholders within the circularity system in Nairobi, actually within Kenya, and we have created what we are calling clusters, a circular economy innovation cluster in Nairobi. And that for us has been awesome, because that means that everybody has been included, and we have managed to talk to people who are within the circularity ecosystem that know what this is about and would like to do something about it. Right? So from corporates to waste pickers, everybody within the ecosystem, we have managed to engage. So that's very good. So we have also done a Bangalore system with, we have also, in Bangalore, we've also had a cluster system, and Karim is going to talk through that.
Thank you, Linda. So as I mentioned at the beginning, please the last slide. So as I mentioned at the beginning, that we have created the circular innovation ecosystem in both of the cities. And we actually had a very similar discussion by the end of the program in Bengaluru in India about social inclusion, about the social impact. And this was done together with our local partners there, so it's similar to what we're having here. And we actually initiated this discussion, and it was, as Linda mentioned, no one is talking about who collects the waste, who manages the waste, and so on. And this discussion across the continents is the same. Bengaluru has a lot of similarities with Nairobi when it comes to this regard. So it was basically focused on how to deepen, how circular innovation, basically how it can deepen its impact on informal waste workers' livelihoods. And as Mel, when we share those learnings across the two ecosystems, we found that those 4 points are very interesting to share here in our ecosystem before our discussion. The first is strengthening the recognition of the value of their work, and their work here is the informal waste workers. And actually we can do this using data and storytelling, but also we can use this by early involving them into the processes of circular approaches. If we're starting a product from the beginning, it's better to include the informal waste workers in the project design phase, the product design phase, and so on. So the early inclusion can be even more powerful than the storytelling, of course, and more practical. The second point is the economic empowerment of waste workers. And also this can be done by ensuring predictable incomes and fair wages, but also we can think about subsidizing tech adoption and skills development that can lead them to an upward mobility. The third one is improving work safety and health, environment and safety in general. And this one can just go beyond having the written guidelines and so on, but actually focusing on adopting a co-creation approach and addressing these real gaps for the companies. So here it's an open dialogue between workers and the companies. And the last takeaway from there was the integration in circular economy innovation. So this is the broader one. Definitely by involving waste workers in policy advocacy and decision making. And this basically starts from recognizing their role as we have in the first point, but also their role as key knowledge holders. We can really integrate the informal knowledge within innovations, and we can move then to create investments and financing opportunities that can be accessed by them because they hold this kind of information that even business ventures might not be having when they're initiating an idea. So these are the takeaways from Bengaluru. I think it would be a good start for us to have an idea about some similarities that we can think about it now when we are looking at these takeaways. And from that, I would... And from that, I think our colleagues
walk down the river, the Nairobi River. That's very impressive. Because when I went there, I was shocked at how bad it looked. It's black. It's literally black. And if you think about that, it is everything that we are doing where we do not manage to have an efficient waste management system. That's where everything goes. And so we are also going to be talking about the social impact, because when we're talking about circularity, circularity involves people who are actually actively collecting waste. And those are the people that we never talk about. We're talking about policy. We're talking about innovation. But who are these people who actually pick it up? As you sleep at 3 a.m. in the morning, people are already up cleaning the city and trying to make a living. So we're talking about circularity and also the social impact. We're talking about who it is within the ecosystem that we are including. Who is it that we are desegregating? Who is it that we are stigmatizing? And what can we do about it? And how can we make them an active part of the ecosystem? All right? So it's not just about collecting waste, but it's also about addressing the communities that actually collect that waste. What is their impact and how do they impact our communities and societies? Okay, so next. So when we're talking about social inclusion, it's a process of ensuring that everybody is included. All right, so it's not just about, we're talking about corporates, we're not talking about the innovators, like I said. It's everybody within the ecosystem. All right, and what we want to do is have a social impact that is measurable, right, and that has a positive impact on people's lives. Next slide. So if we paint a picture about what Kenya's circular economy landscape looks like, we're looking at 4 different angles. We're starting with the informal sector. And when we're talking about informal sector, it is actually those waste pickers, right? Waste pickers who recover most of our waste, most of the waste in the city. And it's not just about Nairobi, by the way. It's about the whole of Kenya. Because wherever there is waste, there's a waste picker. So from Kisumu to Mombasa, from Turkana all the way down, all right? Everybody, if there is waste, there's somebody who is picking it up. And why is that? It's because you might think that it's waste, but for somebody it is. You know, one person's meat is somebody else's poison, right? And so this is what guys are doing. And so what we have managed to identify in the 3 years that we've been doing this project is that there's low pay, there's no recognition of what these waste workers do, but they're also working in very unsafe conditions. And I'm sure we'll hear stories about that later. But we've also learned that there have been many, many community initiatives. If you go to a place like Dagoretti East, just here, they have CBOs, they have youth who are collecting waste because they can see that there's a need. Not only that there's a need for collecting waste, but there's also an opportunity in terms of business. What can we do to make a living? And they've looked at the waste and they've found that there's something that they can be able to do. They can pick the waste and make a living. We've also found that the policy landscape, we've heard about it this morning, that there's been a plastic bag ban in 2017. And right now we've also introduced another initiative, all right? In 2024, there was a mandatory EPA covering priority waste streams. And that again, if you're an innovator, you will know that every policy that comes on board is an opportunity for business. Can I hear an amen? All right. So we're here to share stories, actually. All right. What we want to do is actively try to get people to talk to each other, to have discussions, to have a dialogue, to start a dialogue about what it is that we're doing right now, and especially to do with social inclusion and how we can make this better for the future. All right? So we're sharing stories. So tell the person who is sitting next to you, I'm talking to you sometime today. all right? And what we're talking about really is we're talking about circularity and how it empowers.
In Mathare sub-county, that's our jurisdiction. And when we were thinking about how we want to do this, the goal was that we use embedded community knowledge, right, to basically further our understanding of this system of solid waste. So the first thing was, number one, my co-researchers are going to be waste workers. So we chose for the 6 wards to have 3 waste workers per ward, and we wanted different kinds of waste workers. So you're a collector, maybe you collect from a group, maybe you work as an individual, or you're a waste picker, etc. You're young, you're old. We wanted variations, so we had a very diverse team of waste workers. And then this is a team. We do have some members here. I'd like them to just wave. Can you? There's Bubas, Otiale, Muiti. He's joined our group, and Wamaina. This is the whole team of waste workers. So then we sat down and we were like, what are we going to study? I did not come up with a methodology in advance of doing the research. We discussed and we said, okay, we'll study dump sites, dump site dynamics, which is qualitative data. And then we're also going to look at the waste market, which was especially important for the team members because they are waste workers. They get money from waste. So we also studied waste market dynamics. So just to clarify, the team did all the on-ground research, and then I did the literature review. So I did policy, background, everything that exists that has ever been written about waste to kind of contextualize what they were finding on the ground, okay? So the first finding is there's so much waste. There is so much waste. Yani, nikubaya, okay? But let me contextualize this. So the first thing is in Mathare sub-county, right? The population from research, 422,000 residents, right? Over around 2.9 square kilometers. So your population density is, please go back, thank you. Your population density is about 143,000 people per square kilometer. It's the most dense sub-county in Nairobi city, full stop. What this means is you have the highest number of waste generators in the most dense sub-county, okay? For solid waste, this means there's a lot happening. All right, let's go to actual figures. So the estimated daily waste generated in Mathare sub-county is 170 tons a day. And this is an underestimation because we actually have no figures of the amount of waste that is produced by informal businesses. If you think about it, how many businesses do you need to serve a population of 420,000 people? How many butcheries, vibandas, kiosks, cybers? It's a lot. This is a lower limit. From existing research, we have 72 tons that is collected daily. Can you click to the next one? Thank you. That's 42% that is collected. So the first question is, where does the uncollected waste go? Okay? Now, I need you to note, just because it's collected doesn't mean it exits the sub-county, right? Typically, waste that is collected is held in a holding ground. What's a holding ground? It's a method that the government used to support informal settlements. So basically, because in informal settlements, the private service providers who are typically CBOs or who are the ones that are recognized, they can't afford to take their waste to Dandora. The government says, we'll take for you. But then we're not coming every day. So you hold the waste, and as it's being held, then we'll take when we're ready to take. Holding ground. So when it's collected, it still remains there. Now, how much does the government actually remove? It's an average of 22 tons a day out of 170 generated. That's how much is removed. That's the average across the sub-county. There are some holding grounds that have a rate of 25%. There's one that has a rate of 0% over the last 2 years. So I took an average, okay? This is 14.3% of waste generated is what's removed on a daily basis. And then we have recovery. I put the 10% figure, which is the typical recycling rate. But we don't actually have that data. So that's 17 tons, right? So what this means is that, on average, 14.3 plus 10% is 24.3% of waste is what's removed from your sub-county. What happens to the other 76%? Remember, what's the population density? Do we remember what it was? Sorry? 143,000 people, yes. So we are here, 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 and we have 76% of waste. You're laughing, we are here, we are here. So where does it go? Okay, it goes to a few places. Number one, the river. Right? Just click to the next one. Notice all of Nairobi's major informal settlements border rivers. Kibera, kuna Roe. Mukuru, kuna Roe. Shauri, kuna Roe. Roe is river. When I say kuna Roe, there is a river. My hypothesis is the river, the Nairobi River Basin, is the city's second largest dump site after Dandora. Okay? Whatever doesn't go to the river accumulates on land. And the photos are self-explanatory. Please note, these are not photos of the same place. These are all photos of different areas of the sub-county. Yeah, it's not good. Nikubaya. Yeah. Okay? So, you've seen the photos, you've seen the statistic. Who do you include? You need to include everyone. It's not good. It's not a good. The issue is massive, right? So I'm going to break down who we identified as people who are included and those who are not included, right? And who needs to be included to address this massive issue. So typically, you include waste collection CBOs. They're the most commonly engaged. They're typically, even the government recognizes them. They're the most commonly engaged CBOs, right? But in collection, we found there's a category that is not included, individual waste collectors. So individual waste collectors, they are especially crucial in certain parts of the sub-county. So there's a part of the sub-county, it's called Mabatini. It has two villages called Mashimoni and Bondeni. That's where watu wanatengeneza pombe. That's where people brew alcohol. So it's very highly protected. So there are no CBOs. It's individual waste collectors who are community members who capture the waste from those areas. But at History, you go and you organize and you form a group and government intervention. It's tricky. They're highly protective. There are also wards that have a lot of political issues, where the CBOs also ni mabeshte wa wanasiasa. The CBOs are the politicians' friends, and it's politicians from different parties, the MCA, the MP. There's a lot of competing interests. So working with CBOs is a headache. I would know because I worked with 5 of them for a full year. Never found unity. They were all representing different politicians. Mlango Kubwa and Gay Ward, especially the CBOs, have such conflict that even within their structures, they don't function as a unit to collect waste. They may even outsource. So there you work with individual waste collectors. Next, thank you. Waste collectors struggling with addiction, so addicts. You remember what was it? The 58% that is uncollected. Remember, there was the 42% that's collected, the 58%. Sometimes, unarushia mse mbao, anaenda anarusha tako yako. Right? So typically, addicts are used to also dispose of waste. They are extremely low-paid waste collectors. And we found if you're trying to address capturing all waste, you must include them. We did have a team member who is an addict when we first started, and we quickly realized we were not equipped to work with him, but it's on our list, right? We now know how we need to engage, how we need to support, and it's on our list if we want to capture waste that is collected. Next, please. Informal businesses. None of the waste collection CBOs that are represented in research collect from informal businesses. Kumbuka, remember how many businesses you need to support a population of 420,000 people. They are not typically targeted for waste collection, even though there's a lot of waste that they collect. Yes, thank you. For recovery, who must be included? Waste pickers. We identified 0 interventions in Mathare that engage waste pickers, even though they earn livelihoods from collecting and selling waste. So what we did when we figured this out is we actually did, can you click so they come? We did outreach. So the first people that we disseminated to our research results were waste pickers. This is one of the waste pickers from the team. Her name is Sharon. And then we went all across the sub-county, right? And it was just easy. We asked ourselves, wanatulia wapi saa ngapi? So kama mnatulia kwa Dajo, mkishamaliza kazi saa 4, ndo tunaenda hapo, tunawabongesha. Kama mnafanya kazi saa 12 asubuhi, ndo tunaenda tunabongesha. Kama mnafanya kazi kwa Idampe, saa 2, tuko hapo saa 2. I'll translate. We found out where they work and what time they work. Remember, my team is waste workers. So this wasn't information from heaven. So if you hang out at the bridge after you work at 7 a.m., you were there at 7 a.m. to disseminate information. If you go and after you work, you're in the river from 6 a.m., you were at the river at 6 a.m. We disseminated to waste scavengers across the entire sub-county about the results that we had from the waste market. And we just printed very simple pamphlets with a photo and the price of the item and the location with the highest price. Can you just go back kidogo? Ndo hizi hapa. Tuliprint, tukapitisha hizi ini pamphlets, tukakatakata, tukapeana. We cut up the pamphlets and then we gave them out. Yes. Next, please. I think I repeated this slide. I'm so sorry. I think this... we go back. Sorry, informal businesses. Informal businesses, what we found is there are 2 kinds of waste markets. There's a formal waste market, and if you click to the next one, the formal waste market ni vitu za kawaida, copper, quencher, plastics, things that they're typically sold to low-volume aggregators who sell to higher volume aggregators or yards or to recycling companies, right? And what we figured is this is where we get a lot of our statistics about waste that is recycled. Now, there's the informal waste market, right? And this is waste that is sold to informal businesses. So kuna chirambe, which is organic waste you sell to pig farmers. This is an example of chirambe. Then you have here synthetic hair, inaitwa kofia, the wig. When you finish with your wig, somebody doras it, somebody picks it. Inaitwa kazi ya kudhora, by the way. Mtu anaidhora, anaifua, anaiosha, anapeana kwa saloon, inarudi tena. So the informal waste market is the one that even your duvet, ukitupa, your stuffing, mtu anatoa, it's treated, and then it's used to make pillows, like these ones that we sit on. Yes. We have a very prolific informal waste market, and given that Kenya's informal economy is vastly bigger than Kenya's formal economy, this contribution is not documented. And we think if we did, we would actually be much happier with ourselves. So, what does community inclusion look like, right? From the perspective of engaging waste workers, it looks like you work with, of course, first of all, kumbukeni ni kubaya, hatuna choice, lazima tubonge na kila mse. It's not good, we have to work with everyone. We work with waste collection CBOs, individual waste collectors, in addition to working with CBOs, your addicts, the people who are struggling with addiction, who also participate, your waste pickers, and you must engage your informal businesses. When we're talking about community inclusion, based off of the scope of the issue that we've seen, this is what inclusion looks like. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I have the chairs on stage? Because we're very happy and privileged to have people we work with for a long, long time in the plastic, but also in other waste management sectors, to actually share those stories. So we were talking about inclusion and what it looks like, but I think a lot of you know what it looks like and are actually the ones we're talking about. So let's make space, instead of talking about, for the people that we want to hear, to share what it looks like for you on the ground. And maybe even debunk some facts and add to stories. So I would like to introduce Mr. Richard Kanika. Are you in the space? Richard Kanika, is he here? And then we have Dr. Taiba Baustaka. Karibu, karibu. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Dr. Taiba from the coast. And then Mr. Gisore Brian, Kenyan's National Waste Pickers Association. And then we have a practical action, Mr. Janet Okat. Is she here? Janet? Janet, are you here? And we have Karen from EcoWorld. Yes. Because I think they will collectively represent all the groups that we have been talking about. I miss one. Practical action, Janet? Not here? Okay. He must be also joining. Okay, sorry. Andrew Miney from the African City Research Consortium. Thank you very much. I need actually an extra mic and an extra mic. Thanks. So yesterday it was Men's Day, apparently, National Men's Day. So today let's start with women. Dr. Taiba, would you like to start today?
Good afternoon. So my name is Dr. Taiba Hatimi. I am the co-founder and executive director of Baustaka Enterprise. Baustaka is a tech-integrated waste management enterprise on a mission to combat marine plastic pollution while creating green job opportunities for youth and women in vulnerable communities. I am also the founder and convener of the Women Wastepreneurs Association, and we are on a mission to empower women to digitize circular solutions for regional economic integration and climate resilience. Thank you.
Great. Does it? Yeah. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Karen Joe, Operations Manager at EcoWorld Recycling. But other than that, I wear so many hats, and it was so lovely to see Wavinya present data. I am also a marine litter researcher, and the beauty about data is it helps validate. When you're talking about the magnitude of the problem, it's just hearsay, but you get to see the data that validates and actually helps us to see the magnitude of the problem. I'm also an educator and also a trainer when it comes to circular economy opportunities. So EcoWorld Recycling is a charitable social enterprise based in Kilifi County, where we work to address the problem of marine litter pollution and plastic pollution in our beach. So we work with community groups who are our collectors. We incentivize them to collect the waste. And once we receive the waste, we convert the waste into high quality recycled material, which we provide for manufacturers. So instead of them using virgin plastic, they get to use the recycled plastic. And in so doing, we are contributing towards the growth of circular economy at the coast. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Richard Kainika. I'm representing the Kenya Association of Waste Recyclers. I'm the Secretary General. The association is a business membership organization for private sector enterprises that are involved in extraction of value from waste. I'm also a businessman in recycling for many years, and I bring along my experience in the trenches, and I spend a lot of my time, like 98% of my time, in the recycling activity. I major in plastic collection, processing, and also market. And that is what I bring with me. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrew Maingi, like you've just heard. Now, I'll try to speak in English, though not fluent, but na hope mtaelewa. I'm a waste picker, waste scavenger. Najua hiyo ni term wasiwapendi tukiitumia, waste scavenger. Waste picker ni jina poa, but what are we picking? Wanatuwekeaga papo ama bado wanawekaga tu vile wanataka? For us, I'm a scavenger because out of that waste is where I sort na make do kutoka hiyo. I was very lucky kukuwa kwa part ya research ya African City Research Consortium. I was one of the people ama tulienda kutafuta hiyo research. What else? Nimefanya hii job siku mob. Nilianza kufanya waste nikiwa na 14 years. As a young person, ukipatana na hawa watu wakubwa walianza, ni pioneers. Kama mtu anafanya kazi ya mkoko, mtu anafanya takataka, anakupea mkokoteni unasukuma, with time then you realize naweza fanya pia kitu nikuwe na do. So that is what I've been doing all that while. Yes, of course tumerealize kuna a lot of gaps, kwa sababu zile vitu wanasema huku kwa hizi conferences si zile vitu za reflect na nini. Kwa ground mambo ni tofauti. Mambo ni different kwa ground, because unapata zile vitu wanasema hapa ni PSPs. I was here in the morning and everybody was talking about PSPs. Na sema kuna individual, kuna morio wangu anapigaga hizi vitu. He's an addict. Ukimuita kwa muita PSP, na the structure is built in a way that we must unite as a CBOs ama as a group for us to be doing that. But are they doing the same in Runda? And remember, like we've just said, the biggest issue is transportation. Si watu wa mtaa wakishatuita PSPs na huyo mtu bado ni addict. Wakishatutengeneza policy huko juu wanakama na bulldoze mtaa. And it's a good policy, and everybody, even in the morning, people are saying like Kenya has one of the best policies. It is true on paper. Lakini mtaa huko chini mambo ni different.
Hello guys, my name is Gisore Nyabuti Brian, the chairperson of the Kenya National Waste Pickers Welfare Association, at the same time the founder of Slums Going Green and Clean. Thank you.
That was it.
I thought
okay,
it was.
Let me do it like that. Before we actually have questions also for the audience, that the questions we can either write them down on or the reflections. We're going to do it in small groups, but there's also a QR code on the wall, because we're living in 2025, so we can try and include some digital aspects. So there's a QR code on the wall, and there we can leave reflections. So if we impose a question, we discuss it in smaller groups, we can actually leave the reflection and the responses on that app so we can look at it. But before we do this, because we have these wonderful people who know actually how it is on the ground here, I want to can I ask you, how does actually socially inclusive circularity looks like? What does it look like for you? What you've heard the stories. We know people are trying to, okay, these are the facts, this is the data, this is how it is. Are you able to make the difference? Are you able to include all the people that were mentioned? Or are they already a group, or is that very hard? How is it for you to actually include in circular practice?
So if I can just say a small thing, for me, I started waste picking while I was 9 years in Kibera, and the first person to push me to waste picking was my mom. My mom used a lot of plastics, so she could put them in a sack, but now due to stigmatization, she could not go to sell them. So the first day she told me, carry this sack and follow me. So in a distance. So I sold and to my mom, and she gave me like 5 shillings. I went to buy sweets, but from there, it kick-started an idea, being that growing in the informal settlement, there is very, very limited opportunities. At the same time, our parents are struggling. So it gave me an idea, and from there, I used to do it as a part-time in schools, when maybe tukitoka shule or maybe tukiwa tu around home. So tukapata that plastics at that time, initially plastics hazikuwa hivyo mingi because kulikuwa na wachomelea. So chomelea ni watu wana repair plastics. So unapata kulikuwa na hakukuwa na hiyo market kama sahi. Alafu that time nilikuwa sasa tunafunga spring. Unachukua string, unafunga kwa speaker, then unatembea kama mama anatengeneza chapo or mandazi. You find that they use a lot of construction wood, and the construction wood has a lot of nails. So ukiweka hiyo spark hapo, ina attract the nails. Unaitembea kwa mtaro ukichapa hiyo spark, at the end of the day unaweza pata 50, so unaona survive. So mimi do hivyo, tukasoma through my NGOs mpaka tukafika pale nikafika, then tukaform organization. You can enter slums going green and clean. But at that time, hatukuiform ku address issue ya waste pickers. Tuliform ku address issue ya waste in the informal settlements wapi Kibera. Unapata most of the time, ataka tunasema hapa, the government don't offer formal services in informal settlements. Hiyo inafaa tuongee na tuikubali kwa kichwa yetu. The informal settlements zimeachiwa nini? NGOs and other organizations, ama nyinyi wenyewe mjipange. Umeelewa? So from there si tukaanza tukubeba tako hivyo. Tukabeba tako sasa kuna lipa do, but si tunaipush SAGED. So kuna organization SAGED waste pickers, so tukapata a small support, tukaanza sasa kwenda hizi counties zingine kuzieneza. Sasa we were in 12 counties with a membership of 46,000 members. Sasa we were in 12 counties with a membership of 46,000 members. So sisi kitu we were trying to advocate and fight for the rights of the waste pickers. Unapata the EPR laws came. We saw that's the solution. We saw that's our savior. But in the reality, it came just as a greenwashing term. It's a greenwashing term because when you as a waste picker, you're in the landfill, you are not aware of the pricings of plastics. Plastics is the only thing with everyone decides. In one area, in a kilometer of a radius, you find that there may be even 12 aggregators, 50 aggregators, but wote wanauza the plastics at a different price. When you ask yourself, huyu anauza na difference ya shilingi, huyu mwingine somni, huyu mwingine 2 bob, huyu mwingine 5 bob. Is it making sense? It's not making sense. Na unapata the nearest to the recycler, kama uko karibu na kampu, mnakula dofiti. The people in the South Biz wana earn 50 shillings. At the same time, your plastics inauzwa kwa informal settlements inabaywa maybe at 25 or 30 shillings. So you find we have an indifference, and this indifference we are trying also to advocate it, because policy ndio kitu inaweza tusaidia hapo. Tuko na one regulatory policy at the national level enye inaweza push every regulator, the recycler, to support at a specific price compared na sahi anyone ana put price. Unaona? So sisi kama association of waste pickers hatuko funded. Unaona? Sisi tuliform kama waste pickers. Hatukuform kama NGO fulani ilikam ikasema as the waste pickers mimi ndawapea do fulani z. Kama waste pickers we decided to fight this fight. Unaona? So unapata we are being sidelined. Unaona? Thank you to Karim, such activities want to pay the voices. At the same time, Kenya Plastics Parks tulikutana na these PROs. But in the reality, there's nothing coming out of the PROs. We used to sit in their steering committees, but ukipata when you advocate for the right thing, you're being sidelined. Kuna event hautaitwa, kuna meeting hautaitwa. Now that meeting was where they were making a decision. That's why we have decided as speakers, we are forming the EPR Watch Kenya, a community-led EPR Watch. Iko kwa law, iko kwa policy. It needs to be there. We are pushing for it so that at least tukue. Our say wakituambia they were given 200 million last year, they gave it to waste pickers. Who? Nani? there's no waste speaker who earned something from there. Wanasema, oh, we gave the recyclers, then the recyclers will trickle down the money to you. How? Guys, you understand the way our country is. Everyone wants to eat something. If we don't have a system which is working, there's nothing which will work out. So it's high time we start kuambiane ukweli. Venye ule madama amesema hapa mbele. It's high time we reflect it. Na sisi wenyewe, as the people here who are working maybe with waste pickers or the informal waste sector, let's try to be authentic. Let's leave the side shows. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I was hoping you share a bit more than the first initial intro. So I'm going, as I pass the question on, I think that first question, like what does social inclusivity in circularity means, if you could answer that as a group on the QR code, that would be great. And then we will do the collective ones in groups on what the next steps are, just after, in the interest of time. Just one thing, I think it's very important you mention what we can talk about who we need to include, but if systems do not really allow inclusion, it's not so much that you don't want to work with people, but we've seen it when we were, because we're in this game for a long time now, we've been on this journey, not as long as you are, but also a long time. So we've seen if you want to become part of a system, you actually can't be informal. You need to move to formal. And it's in one, we see benefits of that, but there's also downsides of that. Firstly, it comes with a cost. You need to formalize, you need to create groups. So it's a completely different system that you need to create. So the whole informal sector needs to transform to formal, to be even on the radar, and to actually be benefiting from new policies. The second thing you mentioned, I think, is a very important one. It's what we say, how, if you work with the informal sector, how do you get money to the informal sector? How do you pay them? To be very honest, we even have that problem. Because if we organize an event like this, everyone needs an e-TIMS, a thing to justify. If I have to do this through the very rigid procurement systems, I am not able to work with informal sector. And yet, I want to work with the informal sector. So I try to do that personally on the side to make sure we can include and we can pay people who make this for us they are informal, but yet I want to work with them. And so how do you do that in a formal settlement and a formal system? It's a really big challenge. And I'm very happy that you are the watchdog on the ground for EPR. Let's see what comes out of the court case that we're currently having and see when it becomes mandatory. And I think it's essential because then you are the people not only on the ground dealing with it, but you're the eyes and the ears and the senses on the ground. So thank you for sharing that. Let's try and be sort of short, but we do want to know what it means for you because you living it, you're dealing with it, and for more than a few years actually. And then I will look at my phone what your reflections are from the audience on the same question. How does social inclusion looks like in a circular economy? So Dr. Taiba, yes.
Let me get my phone. Can you hear me? Thank you for that question. I think first I need to comment and say that I'm actually a dentist by profession. I ventured into waste management back in 2021 because of a near-death experience. I almost got involved in an accident because somebody decided to dump waste illegally on the middle of the road. And it made me, I was shocked into action in that I learned an uncomfortable truth that waste, the difference is in the design. And working in the waste sector for the past almost 5 years, we're turning 5 in the next 3 months, I have learned one truth, and that is circularity is people-driven. Even if you have policies in place, even if you have infrastructure in place, but if you don't have the desired human behavior, if you don't have the dignity, and if you don't have the inclusion, nothing is going to work. And that is what we've learned on the ground. So to answer your question, I believe social inclusion means we need every stakeholder across the waste value chain on the decision-making table, co-creating solutions, because co-creation leads to ownership, it leads to sustainability, and it leads to dignity. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. How does social inclusion look like for EcoWorld? So for us as EcoWorld, social inclusion is actually the fabric of that sustain our business model, because as I mentioned before, our supply chain consists of the community groups that we are working with, and without them on the ground collecting the waste, it means that EcoWorld cannot exist. So social inclusion for us including every actor, as Dr. Taiba has said. When tackling the problem of waste, it's not a one-man show. EcoWorld cannot come in at the scene and solve the problem by its own. We need an EcoWorld, we need a Baustaka, we need the informal waste speakers on the ground. We need even the government, the private sector to fuel the growth of circular economy. So for us as EcoWorld, this includes creating dynamic partnership, and how we've done it on the ground with us is, apart from just working with community groups as our collectors, we also try to see how they can also benefit upwards the chain, because as you know, with plastic management means we have to transfer that pressure to our community groups, and we can only pay them as much as we get from the plastic value. So what we do is we also upskill them, give them skills on how, apart from just collecting, can they add value on the waste material. And it's not only plastic, the flip-flops, you name it, the different types of waste, what value can they add? And I talked about the dynamic partnership. So since we are located with the coast, tourism is a really big sector for us, and we've managed to create that dynamic partnership with even the Marine Park Hotel. So if you visit our booth, you'll get to see some of the upcycled products that some of the communities make. And what we do is we do that market linkage. So they make the products, we take them to the hotel, sell the product, and they're able to accrue more benefits from the system. And in so doing, we also build trust with the community members, because I told you I'm a trainer on circular economy opportunities. And when we approach community to even talk about waste and the different opportunity, there's a lot of mistrust with the community, because they are so used to organizations or enterprise coming on the ground and telling them that there's this opportunity, but after they've ticked their box, they are nowhere to be seen after that. So even with building our network, it has taken a very long time to build that trust with the community, and to also show them the consistency that we are not only here for that transaction, but we are here for the long run, basically. So that is what social inclusion is for us.
Thank you very much. And Richard, before you start, I have a new employee for you. In the reflections, there's a very enthusiastic person who wants to be included. And how is that possible? That was one of the feedback I've had. So I will we continue including the feedback from the crowd.
Thank you, Karin. Maybe for us, the circular practices in our community and what impact would we have in mind is that as recyclers, we by default have been in that space. And what perhaps we have in mind whenever we talk about circular economy is a situation where every person gets involved. And when we talk about every person, we are looking at me and you as consumers and as waste generators. I think for us, the impact we would have is that then for once, we would have better quality inputs into our operations. This is because right from the kitchen or from the office, we envision a situation where we'll have waste separated and waste getting to the processing facilities in its optimum quality level. This would ease our cost of production in a very, very big way, especially when I bear in mind the processing of plastics, which involves a lot of washing and sorting. Majority of times we get waste that is contaminated, and this is adding up to our cost of processes. Something else that we expect as a direct impact would be the rate of recyclability would also go up. This is because a significant number of waste that come to us are affected in a big way by contamination. I want us to have in mind paper. When paper is contaminated with organic waste, what happens is that paper converts to organic waste before recovery. So this denies our members, the recyclers, the opportunity to enjoy that material in its initial state. Another impact that we see is the situation where green jobs are created when people get to get more involved in the circular economy. I look at it this way, that way far away in the rural areas, we have a lot of waste generation that is happening in the normal way, but very little awareness in terms of recovery of the value, as well as what comes in after correction. There is aggregation, there is sorting, there is transportation. These are jobs, green jobs specifically. So we also lose that whenever we miss the community involvement in waste recycling activities. Finally, I see the reduction of dependence on imports. This is because we rely on imports in the way of paper and plastics. You know, we don't produce, we don't mine, we don't drill petroleum here in Kenya. So all the plastics that we are talking about and that we are interacting with is what comes through foreign exchange from our government. So our industry is more or less like a mining industry. So anytime we recover plastics, it's like we are contributing to the non-existing petroleum mining in Kenya. So if we recovered so much plastics through the recycling activities and involvement of the community, then it means that our country, our government, and our community in general will have less dependence on foreign exchange, and therefore economically would look like, will reduce that dependence. If you are like last year, probably we imported like 80 million tons of plastics. With good recovery matrix, then probably we could recover, let's say, 40 million. This would lower our local dependence on this material. Then, of course, there is the aspect of the environment impact. We know very well that when we litter or when we throw away our waste the way we do today, it has a way in which it suffocates our environment and our ecosystem in general. So if everybody was involved in the circular economy way, if all of us were involved and we were doing everything the right way, there would be a huge relief on our environment, and this would contribute in a big way in ecosystem restoration. When Ms. Wafinya was making her presentation here earlier, we saw the kind of impact we are having on our environment. If you were to retake those photos and have them as green spaces, because these are spaces that are not being used at this time because they are being abused, sorry for that. But if you were to convert those areas into green spaces, what a nice place would we be living in? What a better place for us to walk with our children instead of having the eyesore that we are creating. So for us, circular practices would have diverse impacts, and it's something as recyclers we are looking forward to, and we are open, our doors are open, inviting you, especially those people who don't count themselves as members of the recycling movement, to come in and join us by separating your waste in your place, in your office, having different waste bins, and beginning to learn early. I remember when Dr. Macharia was presenting it, he spoke about a fine of 20,000 shillings and a jail term of 6 months for not separating our waste. I don't know whether you got it that way. But for me, my thinking is that when we get to that level of enforcement, then we are going to have a better environment, we are going to have a better improved economy, and we are going to have more green jobs created. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For those, for the question about the person who wanted to join the association, I would say that you can visit us through the web by going www.Kenya Recyclers Association. Then if you want to join us, there is a button, and then you can download the form and join the association. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Just to answer your question on inclusion, ile side mimi nakaa, from where I come from, vitu ni different. Like I said before, unapata, for instance, ametoka kuongea kuhusu fines, si ndio? And these fines are subject to public participation, right? Sivyo ndio iko. But from where I come from, watu wangapi, they only put them in website for advertising the public participation, or even a simple newspaper, si ndio? Watu wangapi madhari wanafold gazeti? Watu wangapi, those were speakers or even just the scavengers, ni wangapi? Ni wangapi wako na simu zinafika kwa website waangalie espali kutakuwa na public participation? So tunabaki at the masses ya nani, ward admins ama environment officer. Now whatever we will say there ni rubber stamping. So from where I see it as a circular, as someone in the circular market or economy, kwetu ni ngumu. For instance, everybody in the morning was talking about segregating waste from the source, si ndio? Mimi kama mtu niko hapa, nikiambia huo mama asegregate, na remember anaishi place analipa takataka 20 bob ama 50, nikimwambia, for me job yangu nikimwambia hivyo, si ataanza kusegregate, pia anahitaji hiyo pesa. So I end up again losing more plastics zikienda kwa kina hawa, but sio mimi. You get? I end up nikitengenezea recyclers kazi kutoka kwa huo mama, mapato yangu ikishuka chini. Sisi are we offering a service kutoa takataka, ama pia we are there for circularism? Unajua? Sisi tuko zote, tuko hapo juu ya hiyo. Ni recycle na pia ni offer service. But ukumbuke ile service nafanya from the informal settlement haina do. Mi yangu lazima ndachanga, nichange. Sasa ni December, these guys wanaenda holiday. Plastic tena inaenda inashuka. Si wanaenda holiday? Na nimejaza hivi, na mimi nimekaa Christmas ndio nisota ama nilipia mtoi school fees. Inaenda up. Hawa sijui watakwambia sijui ni market nini na nini, hakuna demand saa hii, tunaenda bado at their masses. Na baki tena tunaenda kuwabambeleza. So tukisema tu sort from the source, ni vakopoa na households, si ndio? That's where we want to start, si ndio? But now, how is waste pickers in the informal settlement atapata do yake ingine wapi? Ama tena mtatuambia, I like vile wasio na Kamigi wanatuambia, find an innovative way. Mimi sijachuo majamaa. Mimi sijachuo. Hata if you will look at the innovators here, how many mnaweza tuambia wangapi mnajua innovators wale hawana hiyo masomo ya shule? Very few. You need to know about how the plastics are broken down, how to be. Mimi the only thing naweza fanya ni labda nikate chupa kama mandugu zetu, ama nichukue hiyo plastic nichore nipande miti. But now you find some people here who went to school na wako na hizo vitu wanaifanya. Informal settlement ni wangapi hizo vitu wanafanya? Maybe the best we could do ni creating briquettes from the waste, ndio? That's the best we can do. We are also limited because there's no much technology transfer for us even to think innovation. Hiyo ni ukweli. Sisi hata even those innovations zenye zinafanyika mtaani, mzungu ametuletea ndio tukaanza kuziimplement. Si ni kweli? So from where I stand, as much as we want inclusivity and we know it's a good thing, so I know it's very delicate because some of us, that is what we do. Hiyo ndio job yetu, hiyo ndio kazi yetu, hiyo ndio nalipa school fees yetu. So sometimes being innovative ama hiyo segregation from the source, it end up ikitunyang'anya kazi. Now hapo ndio ile question, hata si tujui what next for us, because then mapato inashuka, tunaacha karatasi hapo, tunazidi kuongeza mtaa yetu. And mind you, hizo takataka mmeona zingine zinatoka Westlands, zingine zinatoka from other areas. You get? Zinatoka because PSP of Westlands anakuja usiku, anamwaga, tunachukua plastic, which is a very good thing. Tunachukua the material, si ndio? Anakuja usiku, tunamwaga, tunachambua. Zingine anapakiacha hapo. Construction waste. Since serikali iliona watu huko chini tuwabomolee, tusafishe mto. Construction waste ile inatoka waste ikitengeneza mahao. Ndio naenda kufanya nini? Kufill waste siku hizi. In the morning I had Neema wakisema kusukala coding. Waliambia nani? Because me from where I stand, karatasi situmii kwa sababu usiku tukieka nje kwa ploti paka inagwaraga. So what can't they just think of coloring even the sacks themselves because of the diverse dynamics zile ziko mtaa? So for us, when you talk about inclusion, it has to be both ways. I know sometimes also us as West speakers, we have to give away to receive some, but I'm afraid we will give a lot to receive so little. Tutapeana mingi kabisa huko, lakini ile kusema hizo polisi wametujengea, tutapeana mingi huko, tuwape tu plastic na do ingine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. In the interest of time, but this is so good, I think shall we just skip lunch and we just do this? So what I would like to do, because we have you here, so would you mind just finding a spot in the audience? Just we do very briefly, and then we can continue the conversation during lunch. You can have lunch together downstairs. But before we do, so everyone goes to an area, so just divide yourself and sit with a little group. And just in 5 minutes, try and define what is the next step? What is the next step to make this work? What are the needs? And then please leave that. Please leave that on the app so we can gather that and we can also bring that back. And even on the, Karim has made the matrix on the, what you call it, flip chart. To leave some notes there for us, to really, to not have an end of a conversation today, but a start of the conversation for tomorrow. So if you could mingle, because then we have all your expertise and wisdom in the room with the people here. 5 minutes reflections, and please give it back to us online and on the flip chart. I really appreciate you all being here. I think that was great. I think it was pretty inclusive. Okay, thank you very much. Do you want to say something in the end, or we just wrap it up with the exercise? And then please have lunch downstairs. The next session is already in 45 minutes. But that's almost the last, and it's very interesting as well. It's going to be Global Plastic Treaty downstairs in the sofa area. Here we have the single-use plastic, no single-use plastic, treasure hunt, and talks about the single-use plastic that we need to avoid in the mice industry, hospitality and tourism. So thank you very much. Asante sana.
Okay, so just to be clear, we're just sitting around in tables, sitting around together onto the flip chart papers there. just so that we can get your input about what it is that you would like to see happen, having had the stories from the Story Circle. We'd really appreciate your input. Like we said, we are creating innovation cluster for circularity in Nairobi, and we'd love to hear your voice on this. Thank you.
Yeah. And then it's good.